for shit, yeah, they breath stank. Walk up in the club, dripping like I'm fresh paint. I can see through the facade like an...
What's going on, fight fans? It's another great day when you love MMA. Welcome back to Mad Matty Fight Talk. Your host, Mad Matty, once again with Crazy Chris. We're back for this episode where we got a big UFC middleweight championship on the line between the champ, Isreal Adesanya, and the #1 contender and former champ, Robert Whittaker. I'm extremely excited for this fight. I've been waiting for this rematch. What do you think about the fight?
I'm super pumped up. I'm so happy that the UFC has finally been able to book this fight and that Robert's ready and able to take the fight. I'm very excited for this fight. I think it's going to be a barn burner.
Well, we got Isreal Adesanya, who's 21-1 and been on an absolute tear since he's come into the UFC. And Robert Whittaker is 24-5. Both guys are 4-1 in their last 5 fights and 9-1 in their last 10 fights. So statistically, these guys are at the top tier of the middleweight division. And the thing I like about both of these dudes, before we get into it, is that both of these guys are willing to fight anybody and everybody. So I respect both these guys right off the bat. Well, Isreal Adesanya, his only loss in the UFC is to Jan Blachowicz. So he hasn't even lost in the middleweight division. He went up, didn't really put on any weight, got out wrestled, didn't win the 205 belt. That would have been amazing. Robert Whittaker's last loss is to Isreal Adesanya in a huge fight that they had basically between New Zealand and Australia. And I think the pressure kind of got to him in that fight. You could see the moment come upon him and kind of broke him down mentally, I think, because he did not look like himself in that fight. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is going to be a tale of a rematch that's going to be a lot different than the first time. I can see a lot of what you're saying in there about Robert Whittaker. And look, Isreal Adesanya, I'm going to go off his last 3 fights. Paulo Costa completely destroyed him. Jan Blachowicz, he went up to 205 and made an attempt and dare to be great. When you're in the sport of MMA, anything can happen at any time. Why lose to somebody who's less than valuable? Lose to the champ if you're going to lose on a weight class above you. So he went up there, he got, and again, it was a decision loss and it was a clear, take you down and lay and pray type of fight. But hats off to Jan Blachowicz. He wasn't about to stand up with one of the greatest strikers, who obviously is close in his weight class. And then he came back from that fight and completely destroyed Marvin Vettori. So, for Isreal Adesanya, I think it's been a tall tale of his career. He's the top of striking and UFC status. And he's just one of those guys who are going to be around and they're going to be a tough fight for anybody. Again, a guy like Robert Whittaker, he went and after his loss to Isreal Adesanya, he went on a 3-fight tear. He said, hold on, I want to go back. I want to get some of these tough fights out of my way. And I want to regroup before I fight for the belt again. I don't want to be one of those guys who gets an opportunity, loses twice in a row because I didn't have enough time in between to recalibrate and then never get that opportunity again. Right. So he went and destroyed Darren Till, in a technical battle. And I want to say destroyed because after that elbow landed and dropped, Robert, he completely took control of the rest of the 4 rounds. Jared Cannonier, again, a lot of people thought, that power is going to be a lot for him, if he lands in this and that, and he couldn't touch Robert. Kelvin Gastelum, for some reason, the shortest guy in the weight class is just a terrible matchup for everybody else because this guy puts on great shows. It was a tough, grueling fight, but
that fight, Robert out wrestled the shit out of him. He completely switched up his game plan.
I was just about to say he started showing us things that we haven't seen, right? These, a lot of Robert's stuff is point karate from outside. I want to say point karate because it's touch and go striking, which is his style. But with the last fight, he said, you know what? I know he's going to grapple. Let's grapple. And a lot of amazing things came out of that. So we see 2 guys on 2 different times and points in their life. And again, it's going to be one of those things. Has Robert done enough to change his game? And is Isreal still the same guy, right?
Well, this is how I'm looking at it. Let's look at the first fight for a second. When they fought, it was a war between 2 of the hometowns, and they're really close to each other. Exactly. I think Robert Whittaker, and you have to remember, this is when Isreal Adesanya was undefeated. He had all the hype behind him, like Conor McGregor status. Everybody was jumping on that bandwagon. And to me, those kind of things can mentally break dudes before they get there. Whether they want to admit this or not, I know it's true. You got the pressure of your hometown. You got the pressure of, damn, this guy is an elite athlete. And Robert Whittaker back then is a striker. He knocks people out. That's what he does. And that is what Isreal Adesanya was doing to everybody. And what I saw in that fight was basically Whittaker's like, I'm going to fight fire with fire. I'm going to try and touch your chin and knock you the fuck out. He was throwing bombs and he was missing. Izzy did what he does to everybody in that fight. He let him throw, he let him miss, and then he picked his shots and he capitalized on that fight. This matchup, I think, is going to go a lot differently because of the Calvin Gastelum fight. That showed where he's
what
going.
What do you think Robert's going to do different? I assume you're saying what you're saying is Robert's going to come in with a different game plan, right? So my question to you is, what do you think is he's going to change up to be able to throw Izzy off of his natural stand and bang type of style?
Well, I think that if you look at Izzy's last fight, he fought Marvin Vettori, and Marvin, let's be real, he is not a good striker. Like, he is an outstanding wrestler, but
he is durable. He's very durable.
Extremely durable. He's a great fighter. I like the guy, but my thing is, when his fighting style, he's not like a Colby Covington. He has to take you down to win. And that didn't happen. And once you stuff the takedowns, what does he have left to offer? Absolutely nothing. Whittaker, on the other hand, is going to mix in takedowns with outstanding striking. It's not like he can't strike with Izzy. I think he was impatient in the first fight. I think he's going to have a lot more patience, and he's going to try and take it slower. And I think he's going to be able to, I don't know if he's going to be able to get Izzy down, because Izzy is really good at takedown defense besides going to fight Blachowicz. But at the same time, I think he's going to incorporate takedowns, and he's going to use his combos off of shooting in. Could be a mistake on his part. He might get knocked out trying to go in for a takedown, but I think it's going to favor him heavily in this. I think he needs to do that.
You think he's going to have more of a Jorge Masvidal type of style where he stands, rushes in with a combination, backs out, and kind of plays it patient, sees what the opponent has, and comes back in?
I don't think it's like that. I think it's going to be more like Kamaru Usman style, where Usman's like, well, people are fearing. I think that his takedowns are going to be able to get him a lot of openings standing up. I think he's going to make Izzy think a lot more in this fight than he did in the first fight. Izzy didn't have to really think about anything other than avoid the power. And that's what he did the entire fight until he ended up knocking out, TKOing Whittaker. The question for me to you is, what is Izzy going to do differently? He hasn't had to really get better. He's so dominant in his fights, especially when he fought Paulo Costa. That guy was extremely dangerous, and he made him look like a fool.
Well, I'm going to answer your question with a question. What do you do what do you do with Shaquille O'Neal? What do you do with the Kobe Bryant? What do you do with Jordan? You just let them be. You let them take over the game, and you let them destroy. That's what they're born and bred to do, right? Look, this is the thing, man. Izzy's 6'4", 185, and lean 185, powerful, strong, long, rangy 185. Robert Whittaker's 6 feet tall, man. Like, I fought guys at 45 at 6 feet tall. You know what I mean? It's not like that's a height nobody's ever seen before. All right. And he's 70, he has a 73-inch reach. Isreal Adesanya has an 80-inch reach. That's 6 inches. That's a half a ruler on him. You know what I mean? So those jabs and those leg kicks are going to come from a far place. Look, the striking accuracy is 41% for Robert and 50% for Isreal Adesanya. That's 9% at the highest level. That's a fucking major gap there. All right. Lands per minute, 4.68 for Robert Whittaker and 3.94. So we give about 5 to Robert and 4 strikes to Izzy. Now, when you look at the strikes per minute, you're looking at Robert touch, and Izzy's looking to put you away with almost every one of those strikes, or he's landing significant amount of damage with the leg kick or a front kick. Look, Isreal Adesanya has an 80% takedown defense, okay? Takedowns attempted by Robert Whittaker is 0.64 in his career. This fight's not going to the ground. It's going to be a striking battle. Well, I don't see Robert having enough in his arsenal to be able to take on somebody who can stay basic the whole
Whittaker
fight.
Really hasn't had to take anybody down in his career. And the only time he did go to take people down was against Gastelum, and he landed a lot. And now for me, if he wants to win this fight and he wants to have a different game plan, he needs to do exactly what Rafael Dos Anjos did to Anthony Pettis. He needs to grind the shit out of him. Don't allow him to strike. It's basically it's a 185 version of that fight. He's a smaller guy, better. To me, he's a better wrestler, but we'll see. I mean, Derek Brunson couldn't take down Isreal Adesanya, and he ended up getting knocked out trying his hardest to get him to the ground. I don't think Whittaker needs to try as hard. I think he needs to attempt to try, and he does need to close the gap, because the one thing I do respect about Izzy is that he has a reach advantage, and he uses it. Not only with kicks, but his jab is deadly, and he knows how to keep people on the outside. He does not allow you inside. He has great distance control. He's an outstanding champion. I love the guy, but I think Whittaker, that is going to be his game plan, and I think he's going to be able to execute it. Because
Look,
Izzy,
talking about a shorter guy like Robert, right? He can't go in and clinch Izzy.'s gonna have to take a shot, and he doesn't take many of those. So I don't think he's gonna be able to do that and actually execute the way he wants to. Because why don't we see anybody push Izzy against the fence and grind him out, Randy Couture style? Because he's tall, rangy, long knees, long elbows, and he's good in the clinch. He's just like Anderson Silva. Why do you think we saw guys try to press him against the clinch and say, never mind, that's that out of the game plan. We're changing that right away, right? So what do you do when you're Robert Whittaker and that doesn't work? What then? Because what we're gonna see is a classic. He shoots a couple times, it gets defended because 80% takedown, defense is no joke in the UFC. And I'm Marvin Vettori, Paulo Costa, right? He's defending strong, powerful 85ers. What do you do then if you're Robert Whittaker?
It seems that these guys are learning, like the whole UFC, for example. Let's take the fight that just happened, Calvin Kattar and Giga Chikadze.
Okay.
Calvin Kattar learned from the Max Holloway fight. I can't just stand and bang with these guys, especially dangerous strikers. He went for takedown after takedown, and that ended up, he took him down in the first round, controlled the first round. After that, attempted plenty of takedowns. He didn't even get them all. That set him up for success standing up because Giga had no idea what was coming. He's like, oh shit, is this guy going to shoot? Is he going to throw an elbow? What's that? You could see the look at the bewilderness in his eyes. Whittaker needs to do that regardless. It doesn't matter if he wants to or not. That needs to be the game plan, because standing and banging with a guy who's better at striking than you, how is that going to get you the belt? It's not. You're not going to win that battle. One, he's bigger than you, rangier than you. He's going to be able to control the distance better than you. We've seen it already. So he needs to make this a grappling match. He needs to attempt to make it a grappling match. He doesn't need to go for the takedown till he gets it. The fact that you're trying, it is going to weigh in Izzy's mind over the course of rounds if it goes that far. It is. He's going to shoot in. If he even touches his hips and gets him against the cage, Whittaker can do damage from there. He's not a little guy. He's very strong.
And one thing Whittaker does that I've seen a lot is he likes to lean over, like lean down. So if he shoots and then does one of those leans and shovels that overhand right, he might catch him with something big.
Yeah, and that's where he needs to. You're right. No, you're right. But he does need to attempt the takedown, because in the first fight he tried to do that and he was missing. Like his go-to punch wasn't landing.
So I think what he thought in the first fight is Calvin stayed low and like agile and moved around and then landed hoops. But that's not his style. His style is not 5'9". You know what I mean? His style is a guy who's 6 feet tall. He needed to bounce in and out, but change it up, right? Do a 1-2 shoot, or do a double jab, clinch him, but push off, right?
You know what I think?
Thinking about different things, right?
I saw him attempt this in the first fight, and I wish he would have did it a lot more, because what Izzy was doing was he was just staying back, because he knew he was just avoiding the power.
I kept thinking body,
head kick. He threw it one time and missed, but he didn't go for it again. He needs to set it up, and I think if he goes for takedowns, goes low, mixes in the takedowns, and then just rips a head kick, he's going to catch Adesanya on his back foot like Anderson got caught by Weidman. Not the head kick, but with a hook. Different versions, different strike, whatever. Same style, though. You're going to catch him weaving back right on the chin. I think he can land that.
To play off of that, if he doesn't land that, the head moves, the body stays. Next time you fake a kick and you go right, hit him in the sternum, that's going to get him to stop doing that. You know what I mean? Once you get him to stop doing something that they've been implementing into that fight, in your particular fight with them, that throws off momentum, and that's a big turn right there for Robert.
Yeah, but that just goes into how good Izzy is, because you've seen him learn from every fight he's had, and he's gotten better at striking, and he doesn't get taken down because his takedown defense is good. Gastelum showed holes in his game, and he's improved and fixed it. He's a legit solid champion, but I do think that if Whittaker comes in with a different style and mixes in his strikes and is more patient, he could potentially knock Isreal out. I mean, if he lands, he will knock him out. He didn't touch him in the first fight. He barely touched him in the first fight, and that's why he got knocked out. He was gassed out. He's getting clipped left and right. His face was a bloody mess. Isreal didn't even look like he got hit. So if it goes that way, obviously Izzy's going to win. But for me, I think it's going to be a fourth round, third or fourth. I'm going to go fourth round KO. I think he's going to counter him. He's going to mix in the grappling, and it's going to go quite a distance, because Isreal is good at controlling stuff. He's probably going to land his shots. I think Whittaker's going to get hurt, but I think he's going to bounce back, and I think he's going to end up doing the more damage. TKO, KO, 4th round.
I think you're absolutely insane. I'm gonna be riding with the champion just because. Look, it's not like this guy's a new champion. He's been holding down the weight class. He's been fighting the best of the best since he's entered the weight class. I'm going to take Isreal Adesanya, unanimous decision. I think Robert's going to play this one a little bit more timely and stretch the fight a lot longer because in the later rounds is really where he has a chance with Isreal. But as far as him, packing up the tool bag, I think he takes the old same pack lunch that the wife made, and I think he gets his head kicked in for 5-5s. And I don't think he makes it out of there with the belt wrapped around his waist ever again. And I love Robert Bobby Knuckles. I fucking love you, man. But I think you get beat bell to bell like you stole somebody's lunch money.
I don't think so. I think he's gotten better over his last 3 fights. He's learning. He's adding tools into the bag, and he's actually executing it. It's not only is he learning it, he's executing it against guys who are better than him at what he's trying to do.
Look, man, I hate to tell you this, but somebody has to be in second place. Not everybody can be the first runner, all right? There's not golds for everybody at the Olympics. Somebody got to be second and third. Look, there's nothing wrong with him and Robert Whittaker and Marvin Vettori are runners up, right? Those guys are standing hand in hand at second place. And then you got other guys like, Jared and Kelvin at third place. But as far as the champion goes, there's a reason he wears the gold. And look, the guy's absolutely phenomenal at fighting. The only person that's going to be able to beat this guy is the gentleman they just signed to the UFC who had beat him in kickboxing before twice, So if that guy can't do it, nobody's going to be able to. And I think Robert's going to take that same old pack lunch and he's going to get it shoved down his throat by the school bully.
We'll have to see, man. I mean, this fight card is extremely packed. Derek Brunson and Jared Cannonier were moved to this fight card. And I think they're fighting for the next #1 contender, honestly. And who else do we got? We got Derek Lewis versus Tai Tuivasa is also on this fight card. So this fight card.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, even though ESPN's a bunch of fucking assholes and raised the UFC pay-per-view price, you got my money with that one, though. I'm going to buy that pay-per-view. But at the end of the day, yeah, I think Robert, Bobby Knuckles, as you will, is getting better and better. I think that he's going to implement a different game plan, and I think this fight's going to go a lot different than the first fight. I think he's going to be more patient. And honestly, shout out to the Nigerians because they've been holding down 3 different weight classes and they're taking over the UFC. So Izzy, without a doubt, is one of the top tier fighters that I've ever seen. I love watching that guy fight, but I'm also a huge Robert Whittaker fan. And I think he can get this done if he plays it smart and if he does what he's been doing in the last 3 fights.
I think he's going to come out. He's going to check his leg really hard right away like he always does. And Robert's going to say, ow. And he's not going to want to step in as much. And then Izzy's going to be like, yep, this is like, you remember when Anderson Silva was like, oh, he's fighting Yushin Okami. And they try to make it exciting. You're like, all right. And they're like, oh, Nate Marquardt. You're like, okay, who's next? What else do we got for the guy? Right. This is kind of where we're at with him and Kamaru Usman. It's like Leon Edwards. And everybody's like, great. What after that? You know what I mean?
These are exciting matchups. It just depends if these guys bring it. That's really what matters.
I'm just saying, like, they've been so dominant that it's become that, right? Like with GSP, it's like, okay, Thiago Alves, Josh Koscheck, Matt Hughes again. You know what I mean? Like they run out of people because they're just like, damn, this guy's too good. Like who can stylistically match up with this guy that deserves it? And for Isreal Adesanya, the only guy stylistically to match up with him hasn't made it to the top 10 yet. So for me, I think it's the same old story. Bobby Knuckles, I love you, man, but there's nothing wrong with being the second best in the world. You were at one point already were the champion. So you've accomplished the highest of the highs. To get there a second time, most people don't do that. But, you'll have the opportunity to shut people like me the fuck up because I'm not the guy getting in the cage. At the end of the day, it's you, your coach, your family who's going through the motions. And I respect everybody that steps in there. This is all opinions. I just have to ride with Izzy just off the stats. I'm a very numbers-oriented guy. So when I look at numbers and I say, okay, this makes sense, I'm going to go with Isreal Adesanya. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard not to go with Izzy, but honestly, I've watched Robert Whittaker almost his entire UFC career, and he just gets better and better. He did get exposed by Izzy in the first fight, but like I said, I think he's going to learn. He's a smart guy, and he could change the game and put him out cold, which would be amazing to see. Or it could be exactly what you're saying, and Izzy will just beat the brakes off of him again. Hopefully not, because I don't want to pay to see that. Regardless, it's going to be a better fight than when he fought Vettori, because Vettori literally, like I said, he can only wrestle, couldn't get him down, and they got picked apart. So
No, this one's going to be exciting. These guys are going to throw, like I said, it's going to be a barn burner. They're going to throw punches to land and hurt each other. And you know, they have that rivalry and heated battle between each other. And that, you know, I'm better than you. And like when they asked Robert the first time, what do you think of Isreal Adesanya? He said, I don't think of him. And he laughed and he's like, I don't care. And, you know, I love this fight. I can't wait to see it. Robert Whittaker is the only guy that will have the striking ability and the size, you know, to even go in there and throw hands and possibly do some serious damage. So I really think that this is a good matchup, but I think Isreal Adesanya 5 rounds takes a decision, wraps the belt around him, and calls it a night.
Well, we'll have to see what happens. As always, guys, hit us in the comments with who you guys are riding with. Crazy Chris and Isreal Adesanya are going with Matty and Robert Whittaker, aka Bobby Knuckles. And speaking of numbers,
our sponsor, like always, guys, Lightspeed Payment Processing. Your payments at Lightspeed. Go to lightspeed-payments.com for 20% off of equipment you want to purchase. Just go ahead and put subject Mad Matty. That's all. Podcast Mad Matty. We'll go ahead and submit your ticket for 20% off your equipment. And like always, we appreciate all of you viewing and commenting. Let us know what you guys want us to review next. And as always, we appreciate you.
Have a good day, guys. Hit us in the comments. Hit me with a like and subscribe, or us with a like and subscribe. Let us know what you guys want to see next. Peace.
Haters talking shit, yeah, they breath stank. Walk up in the club dripping like I'm fresh paint. I can see through the facade like an